Dear, oh dear. Let's quickly go to questions. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. We've got one microphone, one end of the room. Put your hand up. I will get your microphone, and please give us your name and the organization or where you come from. We'll take 3 questions at a time, and then we'll give Stephen time to answer. We have one microphone at the front and one at the back. Just raise your hand and attract the attention of these 2 very lovely ladies. Well, I thought as much. There are no questions, Stephen. Can we go? We go one at the end, yeah. Can we have the mics on, please? Room, can we have the mics on, please?
Hi. You strike me as a really smart guy. So I guess my question is, given all your experience, given all your all over the worldness, how come you give 50% of your business from the start to other people, 1? 2, Vimal Shah, he's in, one of the companies you've mentioned there is Bidco Africa as one of the commercial investors, correct? Yet you also seem to be tying him to Nash, yet all you're doing is just, from what I hear, Nahash Nyaga is the problem, and you're saying Vimal should somehow have powers over him. Just clarify that. What is Vimal's exact crime here? Thanks.
Please. Any other question?
Hi, my name is Jerry Sherere. I'm an urban planner based in Nairobi. My question is about how much this corruption has cost the country and has cost us as citizens. I think one of the problems we have is because we're not able to attach a value or negative impact to some of these activities, we probably don't really take this issue seriously. So do you have any idea, and I know this is a difficult question to answer, what those costs have been, either social, economic, environmental, and to the investors too, because I'm sure you're on a program and money isn't cheap. We pay interest. There's also the future value of money. How much have we lost as investors in our country, if you know?
Hi, my name is Dr. Solomon from Halifax Group. My question is very simple. As Kenyans, I think we really appreciate the whole investment for the Tattoo City. But have you, as Tattoo City, have you been able to submit a confidential report to the government so that they can really understand the magnitude and the damage, like my sister said, of all this corruption has had, on the international investors? Have you escalated this to the president or to the government? Are they aware about what is happening? Thank you.
So we'll take those first 3 questions. Stephen?
Yeah, obviously if we knew the kind of partners we were getting into bed with, we would have thought very differently about the initial deal. But remember, as I said, we gave them a loan of $11 million to help fund their initial shareholding. But the fact is they've never repaid any of that loan. So the intention wasn't actually to give them their equity. In a way, that's just how it's played out. in terms of what is the cost of corruption, I think that's the key issue. And having grown up in another part of the world and having worked in so many different emerging markets, I always ask myself, and I always ask this question, why should Kenya be behind any other country? Why should your standard of living be lower? Why should your life expectancies be lower? And why should the security situation be any different? Are you less hardworking? Are you less intelligent? Do you have less natural resources? Clearly the answer is no to all those questions. And the answer, the main contributor to that gap, is the quality of institutions and corruption. That explains the great majority of the difference between you and a European country. So to the extent you can stop that corruption and strengthen your institutions, you have the potential to massively close that gap. So as I said at Mindspeak, the stakes are enormous for the community, for the next generation, in fighting these issues. And you can fight them. Often it's the people locally who are the last to see the potential for change. Sometimes when you're an outsider, it's a bit easier to anticipate and see the change coming. In my view, Kenya is ripe for change. You have deteriorating corruption, but you have a very vibrant democracy. You have a very strong civil society. You have a very youthful population. And that vibrant, dynamic, youthful population is going to demand more and more. And that is going to force change, in my opinion. And it's going to force positive change. How much have we lost? It's a bit academic. Whatever's happened has happened. The project is going extremely well now. We're very bullish about the market. We've had fantastic support from our Kenyan business partners. And I'd note, with those people, we haven't had the slightest dispute, disagreement. We've been able to do a lot of business on what I would call a very gentlemanly basis, where the last thing you're thinking about is what is in the contract. Despite a few bumps in the road, we're actually very, very positive about how the project is progressing. Sorry. No, we haven't given a confidential report, as I think you put it, but we've had discussions with many cabinet ministers. We've had very good support from the foreign minister, for example, who was at the groundbreaking for Kajani Ridge. We've had very constructive discussions with the Treasury. We're discussing a range of tax issues with them. We've had good discussions with the industry minister. But a lot of these issues, they are judicial issues, and they have to be dealt with in a legal process. But we have made the decision that where we think the judicial process is blatantly flawed and broken, where frankly it's farcically flawed, we're not going to play the victim who just keeps their mouth shut. And we have made the decision that we will stand up and we will point out publicly, as we are, those deficiencies in the system.
We'll now take... Sorry, guys. We'll now take some questions from the back. Tell us your name and where you come from.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Kevin with the Nairobi Law Monthly. I have two questions. One, Mr. Jennings, you mentioned that our judicial system is flawed, and obviously the people you're up against are politically and economically well connected. Does this mean that if this process fails in a way, would you resort to diplomatic means, maybe to persuade government or prevail on it to deal with the villains, as it were? And number two, I think you've got a very negative perception about all that is going on. What does it mean for you in terms of foreign direct investment? What does it mean for foreign investors? Thank you.
Any other questions from the back?
My name is Edward Kusewa. In your own words, you say that the private sector is a leader in corruption. It influences the police, it influences institutions like the judiciary, it also influences to a large extent the executive and other major arms of the government. Now this is a judicial battle. Private sector, collaborated by Vimal Shah and others, are definitely going to impact or influence those legal processes. According to your own words, that's your thinking. How are you going to tackle this problem?
One last question. This side, please. On my right, please. You don't have a microphone there. Let me ask you a question from Twitter, from a gentleman called Mwendengao. Can you confirm or deny that you hired a blogger called Nyakundi to slander your partner? Can you confirm or deny whether you hired Nyakundi to slander your partners? So take those three questions. Thank you.
Maybe I can start with the last one. I don't think I have a need to hire any bloggers because, as you know, I've come out very openly and publicly on 2 occasions. Even though people are trying as hard as they can to limit my freedom of speech. So any blogger can pick up anything I've said. I don't need to certainly don't need to pay them. In terms of the judicial system being flawed, all these things are a question of degree. There are weaknesses and there are strengths in the judicial system. The first extortion against us was by Steve Maguire in 2010. We fought that case for 3 years. The case was totally fraudulent. He forged even his shareholder. After 2.5 years, the case was thrown out. And after another 2 years, we won in the Court of Appeal. And when we got to the Court of Appeal, we found the quality of the judges and the process was good. The issue is we burnt 5 years in the process. What tools will we use? We'll use every legitimate tool at our disposal. And we have had in-depth consultation with all the relevant governments, including particularly the US government, because my major partner is an American citizen and a US investor. And we've had good support and good dialogue with them. But we'll use other means as well. I think the Court of Public Opinion is incredibly strong in Kenya. We think it's a huge force for change, which is why we're having meetings like this one. Private sector corruption, will they try and cook things with the judiciary? Well, if you really start to study corruption in Kenya, if you go into WikiLeaks, you see all the official material that's been leaked. If you get the Kroll report, commissioned by John Gathongo, there's one word that comes up again and again and again, and that word is impunity. You only have impunity when you have intimidation. That impunity will go away when the intimidation stops. And the more people who stand up and finger the crooks and fight, the faster that climate of impunity will go away. I think you have a big issue in Kenya, more than I think any country I've worked in. Businesses use the courts as a commercial tool. Obviously it happens everywhere, but here it's accepted part of normal business. And the cost of that is massive. It's not just the cost of the lawyers and the time. It's all the investments that you don't make because it's too risky. And as far as FDI is concerned, as I said at Mindspeak, your FDI performance is very poor by African standards. Your FDI to GDP is a fraction of your peers. And that is for most foreign investors, they can't deal with the kind of issues we're dealing with. We're crazy emerging market specialists with a lot of scars on our back, so we know how to deal with the Shahs and Yagas of the world. But 95% of foreign investors, they will not come in to this kind of investment climate, sadly.
Let's take some questions from the front here. Your name and the organization, please.
Hello? Okay. Yes, hi, my name is Edward. I represent a company called Energy Tech. My question is more hypothetical. If you had a do-over, a second chance at doing things again, how would you do those? And just briefly, what advice do you have for investors who may be willing to come in and do a similar project? Thanks.
Esther?
Hi. Good evening. My name is Esther Pasaris. I know corruption. Mine is a comment more than a question. Harvey Nielsen, the lawyer that's representing the people that you're up against, well, he was the lawyer in the project of Adopt a Light with Magnet. He is crafty. He gets the judges to do what he wants. In some cases, even the law itself is not right. I mean, I've had some Court of Appeal decisions where it's totally absurd, but they go through. So I hope you nail him. I hope you, I hope you put him in. Because really, I mean, he kept me through the courts, and he wins everything, somehow or the other. And if you nail him, basically, I think you'll give some life to the private sector. Government. I mean, I met everybody from the president to the PS. I even got a state commendation for lighting up Nairobi, but nobody helped when I finally lost the project. And I'm still fighting. I mean, 7 years down the line. I hope you don't burn out, because really, if you win this, you save the private sector that is not corrupt.
Let's be democratic a bit. Let's go to the right side of the, left side of the room, sorry.
Hi there, my name is Atul Parmar. I represent a company called Saad Ceramics. I have two questions for you. One is, as you say, Vimal Shah has colluded with the other people in squandering the money or the land. How come you have sold some acreage to Bitco Africa, which, as you know, is owned by Vimal Shah and his family? That's one question. And the second one is, as you say, you've given a loan of about $11 million to Nashan Nyaga and Vimal Shah. Have you tried to collect this through legal means or anything? And what's the outcome? Whether through the Kenyan courts or through the Mauritian courts?
What would we have done differently? Well, we're very happy we came to Kenya. You know, let me be very clear about that. You know, we're slightly unusual investors. We're emerging market and specialists, and we're used to being in tough and challenging places. And you know, we made mistakes ourselves, not in the selection of the site, but we made mistakes in how we worked with our partners. Some of them were kind of basic mistakes. We should have, the kind of thing we're doing now and the kinds of relationships we have now, if we had those 2 or 3 years ago, the risk would have been much less. So we trusted and relied on our partners too much. You can blame them, but that was also a little bit naive on our part. We know how to build relationships, contribute to the system, get dug in, and get respected. And if we've done that, you know, it would have been a lot easier to manage those people. So that's the main thing that we've done differently. The chance of us burning out is absolutely zero, I can tell you that. We're in a very strong position. We have huge support. We have all the financial resources, all the logistical resources in the world. And we really want to achieve exactly what you said. Because so many people have come to us and said, I had the same thing happen to me. please keep going. Please try and make an example so we can begin to change things. So burnout is not in our repertoire, so don't worry about that. Why don't we sell to Bidco? Well, we signed a contract with Bidco in March of 2014. The conditions precedent for that transaction were only satisfied a few weeks ago. We had a binding contract, and a binding contract is a binding contract. So we completed the sale to them. Are we in court internationally? Yes, we are. But it's in a jurisdiction where there's very strict confidentiality, so I can't say anything more than that. But obviously, we are in the process of recovering the money that is owed to us.
Next set of questions on this side, please.
Take this off.
Get a mic on this side, please. Okay. Okay, let's have that.
Good evening. My name is Antipas Akala Masongo.
Speak a bit louder.
My name is Antipas Akala Masongo. I'm a member of National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I also work in partnership with CAPSA. We also want to join CAPSA. And, I'm really shocked about Vimal Shah. So much respect for him. But as some of you guys have said, I think our justice system, what I can say, it's fucked up. Justice system is fucked up, very much fucked up. I have a friend of mine who was incarcerated for 1 year. She was a banker. She's called Teresa Njoroge. She was incarcerated for 1 year because she could not bribe police 1 million shillings so she can be released. Right now she has her own company called Something Start, where she assists those people who go through shit. And probably what I want to know is, I came a bit late. Are you still going on with the project that the data city thing? And then, I don't know, I think we need to nail these guys. I support you, we need to nail. I had so much respect for Vimal Shah. I was with him at the GS, and you know, there was so much praise that was given to him. And I'm shocked. In fact, I'll be at CAPSA tomorrow. We have a meeting, because we as sort of you know, veterans in our own right, we are starting our own group where we'll try to want to see what we can contribute to this country. So we'll be there at CAPSA, and I think I'll try and raise this thing to Karo Kariuki, the CEO of CAPSA, and see what she will tell me. But thank you for letting us know about these people, and please let's nail them. You know, this country is messed up by this kind of people. Nail them. And I've said again, our justice system is fucked up. It's fucked up. Yes.
My name is Peter Isharia, and I'm running a startup real estate brokerage. I'm here. Unlike you, probably my little piece of land is already gone on Thika Road. I've been fighting for it for 10 years. They went to court, they manipulated it, and I was told that if you come to the court of equity, you must come with clean hands. I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know what that means. What they basically said is that I did not talk when they were building on my piece of land. Therefore, there's a word they start with, acquiescence, my right over it, and it's almost gone. But that's not my point. My point now is to say that we know that corruption resides in big corporates. We know actually they succeed through influence peddling. Okay, I know they are clean corporates in Kenya, but many of them do that. My question is, why do you continue engaging them? Like, for example, there are so many SMEs, small ones, like my little brokerage. I do real estate. I don't know whether I would be listened to if I came to you for some little business. But you know that we are clean. as you have said. Thirdly, if these two guys are such minority owners of the company, why don't you kick them out of the company altogether rather than even to appoint them as board members? What do you expect by keeping them in your boardroom? Thank you.
Microphone of the room, please. I know it's a long walk, my dear, but Stephen, in the meantime, can you handle those two questions?
Yeah, so
Corinne Guerra, I'm from Scroll and Priest. My question is directly related to what Mashaya is actually talking about. I think many of us here would be quick to commend you on your efforts and on how strongly you're tackling the issue. But what about those who are literally at the bottom and are struggling with corruption at the bottom and are trying to fight it? For you, it would be, let's say, somewhat easier because you do have the resources and you do have the manpower to be able to push this forward. But corruption in Kenya is somewhat of a social cultural issue. So how would you, it's more of a concern more than a question, but what would you say to that? And what would you do to achieve this kind of, yes?
We'll get you at the back. Give us a minute. Let's take those three questions, then we get you guys at the back.
yes, I'm very, very sorry to hear about your friend. And it just shows that there's a very real human dimension to what we're talking about. It's not just dollars and cents. I do understand the technical description you're using of the system. And most of us can probably relate to it. But, it will change. It will change because your society's changing. And it's like peeling an orange with a very hard skin. It's no use thinking about where to start. You just have to start. You have to start somewhere and you have to keep on peeling. And to answer the lady's question or relate to it, the more initiatives there are, the more people who in their own ways stand up and fight, the faster the politicians will respond to that pressure. You have an incredibly free democracy. You have a very strong civil society. Your social networking is very powerful. It can't be silenced the way the traditional media can. I think there's a lot of tools, but I really think it's time for different groups to start to coalesce to fight this issue. I would encourage business to form an independent forum which they have no influence over, which allows totally independent investigation of corruption by other business people. I think that would be very, very powerful. And it would be very interesting to see who signed up and who didn't sign up. I think in other areas of the community there's different models, there's different solutions. None of them are easy and none of them will give overnight results. But collectively, in my view, over time, they will make a big difference. But it's hard. It's hard for all of you, and it's from time to time been hard for us as well. But it's the only way. There's no other way. Why do we keep working with big companies? Well, as I said in my address, we're working with many, many Kenyan businesses of different kinds. Dozens and dozens of them, suppliers of different services, and partners who are buying land. They're from all kinds of sectors, and they're from very, very small businesses, including small brokerage firms, right up to big Kenyan corporations. So, we want to network, we want to be a good partner, we want to have many, many local relationships. So we're very open to working with small dynamic organisations, most definitely. Why don't we kick, to use your word, kick people off the board? Well, the court order, as I said, requires us that we keep Nahashan Yaga as chairman, despite everything he's done. So that's why he's there. But as soon as we can remove him, which we can under our constitutional documents, we will do so.
Good evening. My name is Ruth Achieng. I'm from University of Nairobi. I would like to know how sure will I be that the research you did is not for you, it's not on your own interest? How sure will I be that it's not on your own interest? And then another question I would like to ask is, in short, you're trying to convince me that the leadership in Kenya is corrupt. Yeah, that's all.
Next.
Okay. I am Felix Apia from the University of Nairobi. I have one question. Sorry, I have one question. My question is, what are we doing, or rather, what are we doing to ensure that the youths that we are having in this country does not proceed to the field of corruption that we presently have today? Or do we want to inherit corruption as we are youths? If that's the case, what are we doing?
One last question from the room. At the front here, my dear.
Bill Adwambu, and for me is to
speak a bit louder.
My name is Bill Adwambu, and for me is to encourage Mr. Stephen that after all said and done is to have that courage you want. So just move on.
Thank you. Yeah, you need to form your own judgment based on what we have said. I would invite Mr. Shah and Mr. Nyaga to come to a public forum and discuss these issues. Notice I'm not putting a gagging order on them. They should speak out. And let me just tell you one thing. In situations of impunity, let me give you an example, maybe a slightly embarrassing example. In the West, not that many decades ago, there was a lot of impunity associated with rape. And that worked because the victim was always blamed. The impunity only worked because of the intimidation of the victim. The victims were blamed, embarrassed, humiliated, and that provided impunity to the criminal. And that's exactly what your system does. It intimidates the victim. Physical intimidation, embarrassment, and creating the psychology that somehow the victim did something wrong. And that psychology lies at the heart of that cycle of impunity. So when you make those kind of comments, you need to think very carefully what is behind them. You know, as far as the youth is concerned, I think you're at a very key, and as far as your leadership is concerned, I haven't commented on whether they're corrupt or not. So please don't put words in my mouth. As far as the youth is concerned, I really think you're at a crossroads. Africa's time has arrived. Africa's going to modernise, but not all countries are going to be successful in that process. Some African countries will become true middle-income countries over the next 25 years. But to do that, they'll be growing at 8 to 10%. There'll be a group of countries that has moderate success, and then there'll be a large group that continues to grow at 4% or less, where nothing will really change. And with the massive population growth you've got, and the security situation you've got, we desperately need 8% growth in Kenya. If you have 3 or 4% growth, corruption won't change, youth unemployment won't change, and the security situation definitely won't change. So the stakes are very, very high. And as far as the third speaker is concerned, thank you for the encouragement.
Since we've got very strong support from Twitter, I'm going to give 2 questions from Twitter. One from Sus Olchoro Onyori. She asked that how can you use your experience to help the youth participate in policy making, conceptualizing, and developing future cities when you're gone? Another one from Jerry Tande. Yes, let's build cities on fertile soil. Our concrete buildings will be our achievements while we buy food at very high cost. Can we get the last questions from the floor and then we close the session? Final question? One final question? The final question from this side, please. There's a hand up right next to you. There's a hand up behind you. Can she shout? Please stand and shout if you can. One last question.
My name is Benjamin Kebue from University of Nairobi. From the version of the story, you have found the anatomy of crime that have been done by your colleagues. Now, you sound a frustrated investor in this country. What makes you think that you succeed in this?
Thank you. Stephen?
Yeah, so going back to Vimal Shah, look, you've got this cycle of impunity and intimidation. So many people said Vimal's powerful. I always wonder what that means when people say that. You should be scared of him. It's dangerous to go against him. So it's creating that whole psychology of intimidation. But the emperor's got no clothes. You know, we've described to the world how Vimal Shah has really acted. Notice he hasn't said anything in his defence. And when I say to him, what are you going to do to help us get our land back? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't offer any support. All he can do is go to court and try to stop or undermine my freedom of speech. So Vimal Shah is the emperor with no clothes. But I think if people have the courage to stand together, there's plenty of other Vimal Shahs out there that can be unveiled. And slowly that vicious cycle of impunity and intimidation can be unwound. I'm not saying it's easy. It's not easy, obviously, or it would happen. But I think if people act collectively, it really can change behaviour, and it really can, over time, change the environment. Sorry, what was the final question?
Yeah, two questions from Twitter, one from Jerry Chande. Yes, let's build Tatu City on fertile soil. Our concrete buildings will be our achievement while we buy food at a high cost. Then the other one from Sus in Ochoro, Konyori. I hope how will you use your experience to inspire the youth to participate in policy making, conceptualizing, and developing future cities when you're gone?
Yeah, I think on the second question, you know, the key issue for youth is employment, clearly. Employment, training, skills. So Tatu Mega would create approximately 50,000 jobs. Those people need to be trained. They need to be educated. They need to be taught how to work in a structured environment. What we also saw with Phase 1 Tatu, there were many copycats. And I think that's a great thing. The more successful we are, the more imitators there will be. And we need a lot of new urban infrastructure. We need dozens of people, probably hundreds of players building proper urban infrastructure. Which kind of leads me to the question about, yes, you need concrete to build a city. But
you've got massive urbanisation and you've got this massive population growth. You need new urban infrastructure. So we can either have unplanned, chaotic environments with poor property rights, or we can create proper urban environments, proper ownership, proper infrastructure, and with the capacity from affordable housing all the way up. But the fact of urban development is a fact. And given that it's going to happen, it's better to do it properly in a structured way with high quality infrastructure than to do it in a chaotic way.
Well, I think we come to the end of tonight's session. First, I want to thank the National Museums of Kenya for hosting us, Radio Africa for their support, Kenyans on Twitter for being our friends and supporters, and finally to you, ladies and gentlemen, who have made it here this evening under very difficult circumstances. Today's traffic was horrendous. Let's give ourselves a big hand. Finally, I want to say thank you to Charter City, Rendeavour, and to Stephen Jennings for having the guts to speak out and to help us fight this animal called corruption. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana, kwaheri ya kuonana.